Nice.
which is good.
Nice.
That's what I wanna hear about today. Chat today about Steve, Brazil and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about jiu-jitsu?
Well,
All of it, mate. We just want the stories. We want all of the goss, mate. Everything.
we want anything that you feel that you can.
Yeah, that you're allowed to share.
Yeah, mate. There's quite a lot from that era that can't be shared, I'm afraid. It could quite gladly be shared to you on a Friday night in Wetherspoons, but not to the world, mate. Not to the world. But that was the glory.
Okay, welcome again to the CGA podcast, Isolation Editions. I think we are on number 7 now, but they're all blurring into one. So, yeah, awesome. Once again, back with my man Nick Daines, as always. I think it's this side. When it comes to editing, you get flipped. Anyway, back again after the other night when we did an isolation special with my man Steve Ladley. We're here again. He didn't have enough to say. So we brought him back.
Got a lot to say. He's got a lot to give.
He's got so much to give. We thought we'd bring him back for round 2.
Round 2.
How are you, mate?
I'm good. So I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to talk about jiu-jitsu this time rather than Nick being drunk and waffling on.
What about Nobby?
Yeah, but to be fair, everyone does love Nobby. The great Nobbler. He was.
Last point on Nobby, I can't even remember if I mentioned this the other day, but he used to have a keyring of himself wearing a wrestling singlet that he used to show people.
Yes, you did bring that up. Mate. You were drunk, weren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe you get drunk on a podcast, mate. It's unbelievable.
Nobby was a genuine pro wrestler in the 70s, though.
Was
he?
He
was about 110 years old and he was still working the door. He was an absolute living legend back in the day. He still is, as far as I know.
Great moustache.
That's awesome, mate. That's really.
Anyway, no more Nobby chat.
I think we're done with that now. I think we've said enough on that guy. Yeah. So enough Nobby chat. What we were gonna talk about and what we kind of brushed on at the end of the last one was your trip to Rio, because not many people get the chance to go abroad and train. And we talked to Dan Biddle on a few podcasts ago, and he kind of gave us some experience about how it was training in Mexico, which was quite interesting. And we just kind of wanted to talk to you about, how it came about, who you went with.
We want to know it all.
We want to know it all, mate. Just obviously Rio de Janeiro is like the mecca of jiu-jitsu. So, to get to go there, that's one of my dreams. I'd love to go out there and train. So for someone to be out there, I want to hear all the stories.
I always wanted to go to Rio, even from when I was a kid. I've been quite lucky and done a lot of traveling over the years. Rio was always on that list, long before I even got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it just come about one day. I remember just sort of thinking, well, I'm training Jiu-Jitsu, then I've got to go to Rio. I've got to go and see the Gracies. Got to do the whole Gracie thing.
There's something in that.
And
there's something in that where you like, as soon as you start training jiu-jitsu, you're like, oh, I'd love to go to Rio and train out there. And, because, Ashford is a small town, and we've got, in this small town, we've got 7 black belts now. So imagine, Rio, where a lot of it started, or around, in Brazil in general, how many black belts are floating around on the mats, and just, the saturation of quality training partners must be outrageous out there compared to somewhere like relatively new to the sport like here. So
it was September 2010 that I went to Rio, and I had my blue belt. Yeah, I had my blue belt. So just probably about 9 months at that point.
I remember you going. So I started then.
So there was another fella called Jason Hills as well, God rest his soul.
Yeah, you're saying that like he's dead, but he just took up roller skating, mate. That's all.
Yeah, he left jiu-jitsu to go roller skating. So yeah, God rest his soul. But I'm sure he's doing all right on his journeys through life.
Hasn't fallen over too many times.
Basically, I was quite lucky because at the time Jack was sort of been an in-house sort of housekeeper / UK resident type hookup guy living at Connection
Jack
Rio.
McGee, yeah.
Jack McGee,
The
yeah,
Mad Hatter, mate. The Mad Hatter.
the Mad Hatter. Well, we'll touch back on Jack later because he's woven into the history before this and after this.
You talked a little about him on the last one, actually. So,
yeah, well, because he was just another sort of one of those names that was around and just down the road, but just made the whole Ashford connection thing just really bizarre. We had such high concentration of high-level guys, you know. And I sort of said to him, I said, thinking of coming out. He's like, do it. You know, Jack's like, he's very sort of blunt. He's very sort of.
Do you know what? I've never met him.
Oh, he's a good guy.
Yeah, yeah. I know he was only down the road and stuff, but I genuinely didn't know he was there until he shut down and Luke and Danny came over from Mad Hatters. Was it New Romney that he was training at down there?
I think it was in New Romney,
Yes.
wasn't it?
Was it New Romney? Yeah. So it was only then that I realised. I knew you'd go down there and train.
I'm having real bad internet here, guys. I'm going to quickly run in and turn the Netflix off. Just 2 seconds.
Okay, mate. So I knew about Jack because Luke and Danny came over from his club and Harry, and but I knew Ches would go over there and train with him, but I genuinely didn't know where it was. I just presumed it could be anywhere. You know, I didn't realise it was so close.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I knew of him, but I've never met him.
Yeah, sorry guys. Where I live out in the sticks, I always have internet troubles, and I seem to have really, really bad internet troubles at the minute, which is extra handy.
Well, it's because the amount of people at home watching Netflix all day is not helping, right?
Yeah, I would imagine the porn intake levels at the minute.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
That's probably more what it is.
Especially around these parts, mate.
Just stuff stuck up.
Right, so sorry, yeah. So basically, I contacted Jack. I was like, look, I'm thinking.
Ches?
Keeps freezing, man. Keeps freezing. Keeps freezing.
No,
man.
it's not. You're not freezing on my. Hello.
Yeah.
You're not freezing on my screen, mate. So just crack on talking.
I'll just keep talking. Right. Okay. So if I sound weird, and it's just because I'm lagging somewhere.
We'll let you know if you break up.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. So I just dropped him some Facebook messages like, look, I'm really thinking about coming over. It looks great. And at the time, he was posting loads of crazy pictures of him climbing mountains and doing wonderful things out there. And it got to the point where, again, luckily, because I was doing full-time fire brigade and pretty sort of regular hours on the door, I just had quite a lot of cash back then when I was younger, before kids and wives and stuff like that. It was, do you want to go to Rio? Yeah. When should we go? 6 weeks' time? Do we have to wait 6 weeks? How about we go in a month's time? Yeah. And it was as simple as that. Book the flights. Jack was like, yeah, I'll reserve you a room. Don't have to worry about that. Just sort the money out when you get out here. Started talking about it, and that's when Jason Hills was like, could I come? And I was like, yeah. And basically went out there for 6 weeks, and Jason coming out for 2, and it was amazing. I mean, even if you take jiu-jitsu out of going to Brazil and staying in Rio is such a crazy place. It's a proper crazy place.
I've heard some crazy stories about Rio, but so that was through. So from as far as I know, that was through Connection Rio, right?
Yes.
Who are now
run by
completely
Dennis
gone.
Ashai.
Sorry. What's that, dude?
The whole thing was run by Dennis Ashai.
Right. Okay.
That's how you pronounce his name. And he had some accolades as well. I think he was the first non-Brazilian to get his black belt from Gordo, I believe.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
Which is pretty cool. He had some pretty cool accolades around him. And yeah, it was wicked. You just stayed in a sort of like in a digs just down the road from Gordo's gym.
What were they like? Were they like hostel style?
There was varying degrees of levels. So yeah, there was the pigeon class where we initially started off staying. I think there was 6 guys per room, and then we had a brief period just before Jason left. I think where we went into like the first class bit where there was 4 people in a room, and then I think a load of new people coming in, and where Jack had basically sort of blagged me to be there, I then had to shift into the real lower class. And I think there was 12 people in the room, and it was just like segregated by partitions and clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
But that didn't matter because you were there to train jiu-jitsu, and some of us were there to train and drink beer, and it was great.
Yeah, that's it.
It was, quite frankly, it was an amazing 6 weeks experience in my life.
So what was the training like out there? Did you predominantly train in one place, or did you move around a bit?
I only trained at. To be honest, this kind of comes back to one of the main things that I feel guilty about is I was so naive and so underappreciative of what I had while we was out there. Basically, I went out there as a pretty really new green blue belt who didn't really know a lot about many things, and the experience that I had now, I think, would be unbelievable to have that experience as a black belt.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Where as a blue belt, I went out there on almost a bit of a holiday, not really appreciative of everything that I was about to experience. So when I was out there, I only went to Carlson Gracie twice. And then the rest of the time I just trained at Gordo's because it was literally end of the road, like 5 minutes.
I think that was how Connection Rio was set up though, wasn't it? You trained at Gordo's.
Yeah, because it was 200 meters down the road.
Yeah.
And but having listened to all the podcasts and stuff that I've listened to since, I feel really bad that I didn't have the foresight to have gone out there and seen and trained and done all the other amazing things I would have had access to at the time.
Yeah, but then you can say that about like any time
you live and you learn, don't you? At the end of the day.
Yeah, you can say that about any time you go away and like you travel. There's always something that you miss out on, and always something that you haven't done that maybe somebody else has done, and you're a bit like, well, you know, like you had your experience, and that's really what matters.
Yeah, and the experience I had was amazing. I mean, there was
there you go.
I picked up a couple of niggly injuries while I was out there, but for a couple of weeks I was getting sort of at least twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. The time that Jason Hill was out there, he was training 3 times a day.
Yeah, but that guy's a savage though. He would do that all day, every day anyway.
Yeah, he was a pretty. It's a shame we lost him actually, because I mean he would have been knocking on the door by now, wouldn't he?
Well, he would have been black belt by now, mate, wouldn't he? He started before me. He started before Ian, and the rate he was training, he was. What was it? Did he get his blue belt or did he not get his blue belt?
Yeah.
He was a blue belt.
Yeah.
Right. So he was knocking on the door of getting his purple then, wasn't he, really?
I think he was our previous experience blue belt. I think he was the first guy out of the new batch of people to get his blue belt, and he got it relatively quickly actually. Yeah,
and he was kind of I attribute, and I've said this a lot to people, that I attribute, like, because Dan kind of mentioned that I got quite good quite quickly. But I attribute the fact that he was my main training partner for that, because he had a really good work ethic. So like when you come to like a class and you train, like if I would train with anybody else, we'd do like a few drills, have a bit of a chat, a few drills, have a chat. Do you know what I mean? Like standard kind of training mentality. But Jason Hills was kind of always, if we're here and we're going to train. And he would literally like bang out, like, come on, let's go, like drill after drill after drill after drill. And I would love it, because I'd be like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, because I just loved the training and I was learning so much so quickly. So I was like, yeah, more drills. And I think that kind of helped me and I mean, as a white belt, you're always kind of on an upward scale, aren't you? But like for me, I think that kind of helped push me in the right direction to begin with. So yeah, I always attribute Jason Hills to being like a really good training partner to have, and someone to push me to get better. So if you haven't got a training partner out there, get one that's not Nick.
What?
No, I'm joking, man. I'm joking.
Would you go back? Do you think you got a round 2 in you to go back to Rio?
I would go back to Rio tomorrow, but I am permanently banned from Rio.
Permanently banned?
Yeah.
Self-banning?
By my good lady wife.
Are these
Rio's on the blacklist.
You're not allowed to tell publicly?
Ever.
And you can basically, it's like the lifestyle, beach lifestyle, drinking, party, jiu-jitsu, anything you want to do, you can do basically till whatever time of day or night.
Just trying to sort this out just quickly.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Because it is not enjoying it. Let's just try that.
Have you, Nick? Have you had the inkling to go to Rio?
Yeah, I'd like to go. I'd like to go loads of places though.
Yeah,
like
you got to go to Poland, didn't you? That was pretty awesome. We should definitely sort that out for next year. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but next year. Well,
like I was thinking I might go if we're allowed to go anywhere, I might try and go to the Globetrotters camp in Poland in October.
Get some more headshots.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, Poland's cool. Poland I've been a few times to Wrocław, the Carlson Gracie Poland and Rio grappling over there, and that's cool. And it's easy to get to, and it's really cheap.
Yeah.
I'd like to go further afield and stay somewhere for a bit longer, like something like Steve. I don't think that I'll be able to do that in my family circumstances now either. But probably a week or a couple of weeks I could do somewhere.
Right, so I've switched up my Wi-Fi, and it seems to be a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Hurrah! So sorry, prior to this, if I was looking all spazzed out,
no, you weren't actually. At that point, you've had a couple of times where you've gone a bit like wobbly,
right?
and
Cool.
now
So,
you're good.
So apologies. Right. So Rio, the training was just amazing, because going back to what we were saying about sort of how many black belts were around then and what they were now, sort of thing. There was one Saturday. Saturdays were quite a big deal in the Brazilian sort of week out there. It was they would always have a big open mat on a Saturday, and there was one Saturday in particular we sort of rocked up like, right, it's going to be a good session, and we got in there. I was like, there's 11 black belts in here. And not just black belts, like Gordo was there. There was 2nd degree, 3rd degree, 4th degree, 5th degree black belts, all just sitting there. But it was an amazing experience that day, because I got to roll with, I think I rolled with more black belts that day than I probably did up to probably getting my black belt, if I'm being honest.
Man, well, at that time in 2010, Laurie, who is my instructor, he was a blue belt at the time, I remember.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a really big deal when Dave Broughton from Tunbridge got his purple belt, and everyone was like, oh, Dave's got his purple belt, and he would come down and do some guest teaching, and it would be, and I think Andre at the time, although Andre would probably have been a black belt a lot sooner. He was only a brown belt at the time, but I think
he was still a brown belt, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was kind of holding out, I think, though, to get his black belt from his teacher from Brazil. So I think that's the only reason he was
he had to go back to Sao Paulo, didn't he, to get his black?
Yeah, and so the only people we really had there was a black belt teaching at the time was Wilson, and maybe Dickie. Did Dickie ever come down at that point? I don't really remember, to be honest. But definitely,
I remember going to like a class on a Sunday that Dickie taught as a brown belt after he won Europeans as a brown belt.
Right. Wow. Okay.
So like Dickie, he came to Tunbridge a few times, but not very often. I don't remember Ashford before I stopped training.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah. So probably to help put it into perspective, I probably in the flesh had seen maybe 5 black belts at any given time, like in total.
Yeah.
And then on a Saturday, I probably saw there was definitely 11 black belts there, and I probably rolled with 7 of them.
That's wicked.
And it was amazing. It was amazing.
Was there like etiquette around that as well? Did you go and ask them to roll, or were they pretty relaxed?
You were, imagine like a killer whale and a seal. That was the kind of the etiquette. If you was on the mat, you were kind of fair game, I think.
Yeah.
In case of, mate, and looking back now, I can kind of see how it is, especially how my mindset was before that competition. You know, Saturday morning, I'm going there to spar. I'm not going there to chit-chat. I'm not going there to flow drill. I want to get in there. I need to spar, because by 1 o'clock, my missus is going to be on the phone saying where I am.
Yeah.
So I've got a finite time of getting in there. And I can now look back and go, well, I was just that guy. I was just that warm-up partner, that guy that, like, the 100-kilo black belt would be like, oh, come here, buddy, sort of thing. You'll do for 5 minutes, and I know it'll make your day, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But on that day in particular,
make your day, son.
But it was great, because I mean, there was Kira Gracie was there that day.
Wicked.
And she's just as beautiful in the flesh as she looks on the internet.
Good to know.
There was another fella that I had an experience.
Is that why you're not allowed back to Rio?
Oh, mate, I wish. I wish. If that was the case, I wouldn't have come back. There was I got to roll that day actually with a guy called Eduardo Teta, and he's a name that stuck with me and will stick with me forever, because I got an experience off of him that day that I will never forget.
Good or bad?
In between, good and bad. You may have seen whenever we have sort of like the big names come down, or whenever we get a seminar sort of thing, one of my favourite questions to always ask someone is, who's the person that sort of feels the hardest to roll, or who's ever given you the hardest beat down, and who do you think's the hardest person you've ever sort of rolled with? And my answer to that would always be this guy, Eduardo Teta. He's head coach out in Norway, I believe he is. Basically, you know the yoga BJJ guy, Sebastian.
Yeah.
It's his coach. So Sebastian was out at Connection Rio when I was there. And
no way.
Yeah. I got to roll with him quite a lot. I got to know him quite well.
So what was he back then? A blue belt as well?
Brown belt he was. Purple belt, sorry, purple belt.
Was he? Wow.
Yeah. But
he's only recently, Sebastian has only got, or are you talking about Eduardo Teta?
No. Who? Sorry.
Sebastian,
I think, was a purple belt. I think it was the same as Jack, because Jack was a purple belt out there as well at the time.
Because he only recently got his black belt, hasn't he, Sebastian? He was a brown belt for a while, I think.
Yeah, I think quite a long time.
Right.
Quite a long time.
He is awesome, though, by the way. He's wicked.
He's that typical sort of Scandinavian style, laid back, don't really care. Let's just roll. Let's do some yoga, and then let's sit in the sunshine sort of thing. I mean, he was made for the whole Connection Rio experience. It was amazing. But yes, his coach Eduardo Teta had come out there back to sort of spend some time with him in Rio, and I got to train with him a couple of times. But on this Saturday in particular, so he was probably, I'll probably say about 85 kilos. He's probably your stature actually, Sam. And
hench.
Yeah, solid, very solid. A little bit older than myself, I probably would say as well. But we rolled, and he was like, "Yeah, come on, I'll roll," because he'd sort of taken a few of the foreigners classes sort of thing in the week, and I got to know him, and he come across really cool. And we slapped some knuckles, and he subbed me in probably 5 seconds, like literally 5 seconds. And I was like, "That's cool." Slap knuckle, probably another 10 seconds. And this went on for like the first minute. So he probably subbed me 4 times in the first minute. And I thought, all right, I'm going to just sit back and go super defensive. Slapped a knuckle, just absolutely stomped me, another 20 seconds sub. And I was like, all right, well, I'm bigger than you. Because I mean, I was probably about 105 years old. All right, I'm gonna ball rush you. Ball rushed him, and I think he wrist locked me in about 2 seconds. And long story short, this went on for probably 7 or 8 minutes. And towards the end of it, he was just subbing me like that. But in the process, his attention was over here, going in Portuguese, pretty much discussing, I imagine, what they were going to do for the rest of the Saturday. And then his attention would then go back over here, coaching Sebastian while he was sparring with another black belt in whatever language that was. And in the meantime, it was just like, yep, headlock. Yep, over there. Yep, over there. Oh, yeah, let's go again. Wrist lock. And it went on like that. And it was amazing. He absolutely just shooed me like that. 10 seconds, like that, 10 seconds. But it was, whatever I tried had no effect. It had no difference on the outcome. It was just submission. Yeah. But he'd done it so gracefully, with such fluidity, such style, class and technique. I remember just thinking, this is amazing. I physically probably couldn't pay to get this experience.
You can't imagine. You can't understand how someone moves and does stuff like that, can you? And then, like, you kind of get to your level now, Steve, and you probably roll with some white belts, and they probably think the same about you, mate. Do you know what I mean? Now, like, they're probably like,
possibly, but honestly, like, I was probably occupying 10% of his focus at most. And he was absolutely decimating me. And I mean, I was a pretty rubbish blue belt back then, but I was a heavy, strong, fairly fit, fairly up for it blue belt. So it wasn't like I was a piece of cake. And I remember just thinking, that is art. That's artistic.
And game as well. Game for a hard fight.
He loved it. He loved it. And I remember watching him, and he sparred like that for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
He probably went through the whole club and probably had like 100 submissions that day. It was amazing. But he had, I wish I could remember this right. I think he won the Rio Challenge or something like that at blue belt. I wish I could remember this, because it was something like they took 1,000 blue belts out of Rio, and it was a 1,000 blue belt competition, and he won it.
They're still training. They're all blue belts. They're still training.
No, it was at the time. It was something they'd done. I don't know how true this was or how wrong I've got this, but I remember Sebastian saying it was something like he won in 1992 or whatever it would have worked out. He won the Blue Belt Challenge, which was some sort of major accolade in Brazil. It was basically all the blue belts had come together, and there's 1,000 entries, and he went through it and won it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's something like that. But he was amazing, and I think it was a 3rd or 4th degree black belt then. Yes. And I mean, could you imagine rolling with a 4th degree black belt as a blue belt?
No, I genuinely can't imagine it. I think that the closest we came, I think Marcelo Copper came to our club when Dave was a purple belt. I think it wasn't that long after Dave got his purple belt. And I remember seeing him roll with like, you know, Dave, and he was just, he was pretty similar to that, to be honest. I remember him having him in his guard, and I remember Dave trying to get out of his guard, and he was like playing with his finger tape, probably thinking about what he's going to have for dinner later that day, while like, you know, and Dave at the time was just like, I was just like, wow, how's he doing that to like one of the best guys, you know?
But this comes back to that old saying, isn't it? There's levels and there's levels.
There's levels and levels, yeah.
It's a bit like when I'm lucky enough to roll with Dickie. You think you're doing all right, and then he destroys you. You think you're doing all right. You think you're doing all right.
Yeah.
I've never rolled with Dickie.
Oh, Dickie's probably my favourite person to roll with, because he's another one, a bit like what I said about Luke on that first series. It was, if you have to be 100%. Otherwise, if you let it slip, then it's like opening the floodgates. He's gone, and then you're messed up.
Yeah.
And he's probably going 50% on me, 30, 40, 50%. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fun. He's probably my favourite person to roll with.
Wicked.
But Rio.
Not Nick.
Second. No, after Luke, so he'll be third. But Rio as a whole, though, man. I mean, there's other conversations we could have about Rio, but
well, we're going to.
It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful place. Seeing the statue of Christ as well. I mean, that's a bucket list.
Christ the Redeemer, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's wicked. And you have to go up. You have to go up the mountain to get there as well.
Yeah, it's right on top of a mountain.
Do you walk up there? Do you have to walk?
You drive up there. And there's a little car park sort of thing, and you have to walk up. But it's beautiful.
Yeah, stunning. So did you do like? So when you went to Carlson Gracie's, what was that like?
Well, it's not what you think for a start.
No, I bet it's not. I don't know what.
Do you know anything about it?
I literally know nothing. The only thing I've seen, I remember Kieran, I think, when he went out there, I think he did like a video on his phone of him like as he come into the entrance, and I think there's like a plaque or something.
There's a wooden door, yeah.
But that's the only thing I really remember.
So, the grand Carlson Gracie HQ, like pretty much the melting pot of where it all starts from. You think it's going to be this glamorous gym, this crazy big wild sort of gym, and you start building up all these expectations of what it's going to be like, especially. So you get into Connection Rio and you train at Gordo's. You trained at Gordo's for quite a while.
What was Gordo's like first?
Amazing. Quite a modern gym. All
wicked.
All very well done, all very nicely matted out, all sort of white walls and big graphics up on the walls. Real smart gym. And you're like, wow, if this is what Gordo's is like, imagine what Carlson Gracie's going to be like. And Gordo's, so Connection Rio is in the the borough of Baja. So it's quite a long way out of what you would imagine Rio to be like. It's a 40-minute bus ride out of like Copacabana. Yeah. Where Carlson's is just up the road from Copacabana. So it's central Rio. Yeah. But yeah, so me and Jason were like, yeah, let's go to Carlson's. We got in a taxi and we got dropped off, and it was like, okay, we're just in like a housing, like an apartment block estate sort of thing. And to the point where like not really sure what's going on. And we had a look around and tried to, in our lost English, try to explain where we needed to go to some people. And they're like, yeah, go through that door upstairs. And you're like, really? Really? Anyway, yeah. Cutting a few stories out of this. But basically, Carlson Gracie headquarters or the Carlson Gracie Rio is an apartment in an apartment block, in a not particularly nice apartment block. And it's almost like, well, it was when I was there, it was like a time capsule. There's old mats, old decor, there's loads of cobwebs. All the trophies are from like 1986 and stuff like that. Massive, great big trophies, but completely covered in spiders' webs. And it's like, it's crazy. I've got some pictures actually. I'll stick some pictures up because I think not what you would imagine.
No, but I think the difference there is Gordo's, because they've got that Connection Rio, they're obviously getting money from tourism, which, is big bucks out there. And I can't imagine there's a lot of people paying big money to go to like a small Carlson's gym. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no marketing or anything for it. And, especially if you didn't really know where it was.
It wouldn't have had the capacity to have done much anyway, because it's literally, honestly, if you imagine buying an apartment in an apartment block somewhere and then just knocking a couple of walls down and sticking some mats down, that's what Carlson Gracie Rio.
There's something really cool about that though.
Well, that was it. You knew. It felt like you was in Jerusalem. It felt like you was in the barn of Jerusalem, you know, because, going to Rio itself is going to Mecca, going to the holy place. But when you're stood, especially where we're Carlson guys, you know, especially standing there, because Mrs. Carlson Gracie was there as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so we got to meet her.
That place and those mats, you know, they're probably like some absolute legends have trained in that same place on those same mats, probably.
You could probably imagine that most people in your mind who you would want to train with have trained on that mat.
Yeah.
People have sweated on that mat.
Yeah.
People have bled on that mat. And it was, you knew, it felt special. It felt totally against what you would imagine it to be, but at the same time, it felt truly, truly special.
Yeah,
But it's a bit like going up and seeing Christ the Redentor as well. It was like, there's something so amazing about that as an experience.
Yeah, you have to go. If you train at Carlson's in another country, you have to go to Carlson Gracie's when you're
absolutely. Even as a rule, if you go anywhere, you should take a gi and you should train with them.
Yeah, you have to.
Even if it's not your team, and as long as you can rise above that and mentally sort of deal with it, you've got to go and train jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is what it all boils down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%.
I do believe, though, that Connection Rio has since folded, so that can't have been doing terribly well.
I generally don't know what happened there. So
it's gone now. I think it's gone.
Yeah, I think it just disappeared, and I know at the time that was pretty much the only sort of way you could go out to Rio and have it all.
It was a cool setup, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
Cool thing. Because did you get all your food paid for and stuff as well? So was it just accommodation and your training you paid for?
It was accommodation, training, and collection from the airport. Because another thing that needs saying, though, is I've been some crazy places on my travels, but Rio by far is the most motherfucking dangerous place on the planet.
Oh man, really?
Oh, honestly, I cannot explain to you how.
So what makes you say that then? So what happened?
Guns, man. Everyone's got guns.
Yeah.
You know, and that's another sort of one of those weird balances in life. You're out there training jiu-jitsu at a hardcore jiu-jitsu gym and you think, oh, I'm pretty tough.
Don't matter.
But then you walk down the road and you see someone like a dude with a gun, and you're like, no, mate, I'm going back up there.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is, though, is that like people go for like touristy. They think that the favelas are like a tourist attraction. They go up there thinking, it'd be wicked to see it, but generally it's super, super dangerous. Like,
I spoke to Gordo. I actually spoke to Gordo about it because I was in mixed. Because it was like one of those things that you think you should go and do, but at the same time, I'm fairly sensible when it comes to trying to be sensible. And I remember thinking,
especially you probably got your head screwed on because you've done a bit of traveling beforehand.
It's certainly wise to ask someone local whether that's a good idea. And I actually spoke to Gordo about it, and he said, "Well, think about it. You know it's dangerous, and you asked me if I should go there. If I was in your country and I was asking you if I should go to somewhere that's really dangerous, what would you say?" And I was like, "I don't think it'd be a good idea." And he went, "Well, I'm telling you, I don't think it's a good idea if you go to the favelas." Man, there was nights when we were out there that you could hear gunfire. You could see flashes of gunfire in the favelas.
Man,
like legit dangerous. We had guns pulled on us. There was guns. There was police just walking down the road with guns. We got pulled over at a road check one night in a taxi coming back from Copacabana back into Baja. And they don't mess about. They pull you over and there's guns through the window, front and back, guns. Who are you? What are you doing? Why have you got white guys in the back of your car, sort of thing?
Right.
No, seriously, there was like guns through the window. It was so dangerous. And like talking to a couple of the taxi drivers that spoke English out there, you don't stop at red lights in Rio. As soon as it gets dark, you don't stop at red lights because you get carjacked and you get messed up.
I saw there was like a video floating around on one of the social media sites, and it was like, I think it might have been during the Olympics, and basically like it was like the kids who would rob you. Oh,
just at point blank, and they'd rob you, and they'd look at you and go, "What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?"
Yeah.
There was some guy this guy was like, he actually made me laugh because he's just on the phone. He had like a quite modern smartphone. He's on the phone on a bus like that, but the window was open on the bus, and some kid just jumps up, grabs the phone, and then just walks off. It's like the bloke's like, "Oh, he just had my phone." But they're so blatant.
I think you definitely get more sensible as you get older as well, and like you may well think now as well, if you were discussing going back at now, Steve, even if it was an option, you might think twice about it and think maybe now I'll go to San Diego or somewhere or Chicago for Carlson Gracie out there. And, you know what I mean? Somewhere safer where the training is like, you know, in America, you could say now the jiu-jitsu is in America is the best in the world now.
Well, California, like now my choice would be California. I think the minute that you've got people that depend on you, i.e. the minute you get married, the minute you have kids, I think, honestly, if I'm being honest, Rio was so dangerous that I don't think it's really an option. And don't get me wrong, if you went and trained and were really sort of sensible, you'd be all right. But there's a firefighter that I work with from London. He went out there a few years ago. He got shot.
Whoa!
You can Google this. You can Google British tourists taking a wrong turn just outside Rio, turned into favelas. They got ambushed. They got shot. His wife got shot, physically shot.
Did he?
They all survived. They all survived. But yeah, Google this. This is a true story.
That just makes me think like it's not. I mean, I'd love to go and stuff. Maybe you know, it's like anywhere. I suppose you can spend like a lot more money and feel more safe, I guess. But like, if you want a proper experience, you know, that stuff can happen, and I might think twice about it.
Yeah,
you know?
I think the minute you throw kids and the people who depend on you,
you wouldn't go with your family to Rio.
Oh, no. Well, not even. It was, but this is the thing. This is what I would say to like the younger people listening to this. It's weird because when something like that is so dangerous, that's part of the buzz. That's part of the experience of being somewhere like that. Because when it's that dangerous, it's so vibrant. It makes everything else vibrant. You know, and Rio, I think, is the epitome of that because it's such a beautiful place. I mean, sitting on the beach drinking beers in Copacabana, it's amazing. But at the same time, you know, there's people with guns. There's people with guns everywhere.
Yeah.
But just to give you a sort of a story of that, there was one night where a few of us were out and we went to like this nightclubby jazz dance type thing just down the road from where we were staying. And there was loads of us. I mean, there was even a couple of guys who were there training for UFC. I can't remember their names, but there was a couple of lads who'd come down to do a jiu-jitsu camp ready in preparation for the UFC. So we're talking pretty high level, pretty tough guys. And there was probably a dozen of us in this nightclub. And you could see that things were starting to get frosty over there. Nothing to do with us. We was over here having a good time. But way over there, you could see that there was some push and shoving, a lot of shouting. And there was a couple of Brazilian lads. They were like, look, we're just going to go. And we're like, no, we'll be all right. There's loads of us. Like, what's going to be wrong? We're like, yeah, but none of us have got guns. Steve, none of us have got guns. All of them have got guns. We're not involved, but it's going to get ugly. And we just left. But I remember thinking, it doesn't matter how tough you are in Rio.
Yeah.
You're not that tough.
And
that's a true story.
Luckily, you had them there to kind of, you know, tell you that. Because if you were just like a bunch of tourists without, you know, some of the locals around and you saw something and maybe there's a group of you, you'll see that getting like, you know, a bit.
Oh, it's not good.
Getting aggy over in the corner. You'd be like, oh, we'll be all right. There's loads of us. And then gunfire starts happening. You know, you could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. No, it's good. But yeah, such an unusual setup because it's so beautiful, so vibrant, yet by far the most dangerous place I've ever been.
Yeah, mad.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, like, you know, it gets me in a bit of a quandary because I'd love to go and do some training, but I don't want to get shot. Like, I'm at the point in my life now where I think it probably won't happen and it'll probably be fine, but
yeah. Like, another risk for you would be sex trafficked as well, mate, where you're beautiful.
Well, this is it. You know, pudgy white girls.
You know, you can't take that risk anymore, mate.
No. I think if you went out there knowing that you had to be careful, then you would be okay. If you went out there with the mindset of being 100% careful, but I also think
I'm also not very sensible.
Yeah, Nick, you don't score particularly high on my list of people that would be sensible in Rio. Having been to Rio and knowing what Rio can be like, yeah, maybe not.
Maybe that would be the best idea for me. I ended up once. We went to we used to go to the States for like a week to see my wife's auntie and grandma, and she because her grandma was in a nursing home, and so one year we went out and she was like in her 90s, so we went out there to say hi, hello, because she couldn't come over for our wedding, obviously, and so you go over, fly over, you jet lag for like 2 days, and we fly back after another 3 days. Like it was like that. Then the next year it's like, oh, we've got a baby, so we better go and show her, you know, before she dies, sort of thing. And then it's like another 2 years later, right, we've got another baby and she's still alive, so we'll go over there. And the second time we went over, first time we went over when Becca was pregnant, I went down into the hotel and had like a few beers down in the hotel, and then ended up like going out in DC with like a couple of people I met down there. Then they went and I was like, oh, I'll be all right, carry on. Like, and I ended up in like some like horrific place, like honestly, like in a car, like driving around with people I'd never met before. And you can, I mean, I'm like, yeah, it's fine, no worries. And I was like thinking, actually, I don't know if this is fine.
Yeah.
And
yeah, don't go to Rio, Nick.
Yeah,
no,
don't go to Rio.
I can do that when I started off in quite a nice hotel bar. Like,
Yeah,
I ended up like somewhere I had no idea where I was, being driven around by people going, "Who is this dude?" And I was like, I'm going to get in a cab now myself. It was so I can get myself in trouble anywhere. So Rio is probably the worst place for me to go.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, I think you get yourself in trouble in Ashford, mate. So
yeah, that's right.
That's easily done as well.
Yeah, mad.
Such a vibrant place, Ashford.
So training twice a day out there. No, I'm surprised you come away with just a couple of niggly injuries and nothing worse. It must be tough. What's it like training in that heat as well?
hard.
Yeah.
It took about 10 days to sort of acclimatise to that. But when you're at a destination just to train jiu-jitsu and then the rest of the time is kind of holiday, it's great because I think it was like 10 a.m. was the gringo class, I think, as it was back then.
Is that how they worked it then? Did they like kind of separate the classes out?
No, it was, if you imagine kind of like it set up as Carlson Gracie Ashford, it was like Carlson Gracie Ashford would have the set timetable, but then I think over the years as Connection Rio sort of spiked, and I mean when I was there was probably 25 guys staying there. So at any point you might have 25 guys who also want to train again. They would then during the day have, well, Gordo's is open, go and train there. Dennis might be there. Jack might take the class. One of the black belts, one of the guest black belts, like I say, that Teta took a few of the gringo classes. And then, so yeah, you'd have a morning one that was just for gringos. Then you'd have a lunchtime class. Then you'd have an afternoon class. Then you'd have an early evening class, which I believe was just for gringos. And then you'd have the evening class, which is open. So there was 3 classes a day pretty much for Brazilians and then 2 extras for gringos. So there was 5 classes a day, you know. It was mental back then.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's like the dream though, isn't it? I think like it'd be great to one day, like our gym, like it's just open sort of thing, like it's open mat, you know, there's people like, you know, the black belts are booking in privates when they around their work schedules, you know, like there's always something going on. That always excites me, that you think one day we'll get to a point where, you know, whatever's going on, you think, right, my day's changed today, right, I can go down, I can get in that class, I can do that, maybe I can do a lesson with Steve or something.
But this is kind of what I'm saying though. When you're trying to do this around a working environment with family and that, it becomes quite hard. But when you're on an elongated holiday where, so like, 10 till 11:30, let's go jiu-jitsu. Then we'll go back, get showered, then we'll head down the beach. And literally in a true Brazilian fashion, we'll go grab some acai on the way, and then we'll go sit down the beach, stare at some chicks for a little bit, come back, jump in the pool,
anything else to do,
watch some rubbish, watch a movie, train again, and then go out for some beers. You know, it's basically a holiday lifestyle with 3 hours of jiu-jitsu a day.
That's the jiu-jitsu lifestyle in Rio. Like that's what they do normally.
Yeah.
But for some of them it was
training 4 times a day because they got nothing else. They like just do that. Go down the beach.
It was awesome.
Do you find yourself getting into the like, you know, the routine for your body as well? Like recovery, was it okay training like that quantity?
Well, I think he's kind of answered that with like the fact that he's just there's so much rest, isn't it? It's not as if like he's training in the morning, going to work, and then training in the evening.
Was sparring as well? Like each session, did you do like a lot of sparring, or was there some like technique classes, or you were able to manage the whole thing so you could keep training like the whole time you were there?
Throughout the course of the week, some lessons were structured slightly different to others. So some would be sort of lower level stuff, some would be higher level stuff, and then some would be targeted mainly on sparring. So you could pick and choose a little bit there, but by this like the 4th, 5th, 6th week, realistically, you was only getting 1 good solid session in a day because it took a while to sort of acclimatise to the heat, and then it took a while for your body to sort of condition itself to training lots of jiu-jitsu. And then especially, like, I think my elbow was one of them, and my knee sort of went a bit dodgy. And by the end of it, it was just one session a day that I was picking up. Yeah. But if you're training a solid session of jiu-jitsu, then one session a day should really be enough.
But even you saying one session a day, and I think like now, imagine that though, one session a day. I mean, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, especially if it's 35 degrees and there's a load of Brazilian people there that just want to kill you because.
Yeah. It depends how you train though. I mean, if there's that many classes, right, you could probably just get away going there, doing some drills, doing a few techniques and just ducking out before the sparring kicks off. And then pick one session during that day where you do a hard sparring and that'll be enough for you.
I think that's what some of the smarter people were doing. They were sort of getting, because there was one guy there who trained 3 times a day. I can't remember his name, but he made a point of training 3 times a day, but he wouldn't go to the open mat sort of thing. So he was there to pick up techniques. He was there to drill. He was there to train. Where, I mean, you know me.
These disciplines.
I think it's mate. I'm not. Mate, I would be exactly the same because for me that is like the most fun part. Yeah. And you learn a lot, don't you, during the spars? Yeah. So I'm like,
especially when you're a new kid in the candy shop, mate, and there's purple belts and brown belts, and there's a guy from Germany, there's a guy from Australia, there's a guy from. Well, at the time, there's people from all around the world, Hong Kong. Yeah.
And what other opportunities do you get to roll around with those? With that kind of.
And you know what it's like. Say a new guy turns up. Say there was a new purple belt that turned up at the gym, and you roll with him a few times. You can suss him out instantly, sort of thing. So imagine living with a guy for 6 weeks, rolling with him a couple of times a day. You become very, very friendly very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So there was some real good close friendships established within a few days out there.
I think Dan Biddle said the other day as well, he was like, people weren't, when he went to Mexico, like they didn't speak very good English and it was a bit awkward. He was like, it's a bit awkward. It didn't help that he threw up as well, which is quite funny. But he was like, it was a bit awkward. But then he said, as soon as he finished the sparring, it was like everyone was best mates. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's something in that, isn't there? Like, you don't really know.
Well, you can judge a man's character, can't you? You can do one round with someone and you know what sort of person they are. And I think that's one of the things I absolutely adore about jiu-jitsu, because you can't fake who you are on the mat.
Yeah, how much fight they've got in them, and you can judge them on that, and it's it's good. I love that.
That is one of the beautiful things about jiu-jitsu, because I mean, like us, we've got people from all walks of life in our little club alone, and. You know what sort of people they are by the time you finish rolling with them.
Yeah, 100%. It's like when someone new turns up, say they got a belt or something, so they've been training a few years, but you don't really know them, and then you spar with them, and you're like, you're like brothers after that, aren't you? You're like, I know you now. You can learn so much more about someone in a role than you could, after meeting someone out. You know what it's like. If you've never been out with like your missus and they're really good friends, and it's the first time you've met one of their friends' boyfriends or something.
Yeah,
you don't really know them very well, and you're trying to make awkward conversation. But like, if you roll with him, you'd be best mates.
Yeah.
And people who stick around and get different grades and stuff, they know the coup as well. They know how it works, and you can pretty much spy with anyone, and you've got the same kind of, usually if someone's got the right kind of idea, they've got the same standards of what you can do in a roll. They don't want to start gouging your eyes and stuff like this.
You've been rolling with Mark again.
Well, he can't help it. He can't help hitting people in the face because he doesn't know any better.
So here's that question for you two then. So you two, who's the toughest guy that you've ever been privileged enough to roll with? Like who's legitimately sort of teared you to pieces?
Wilson Jr.
Yeah, that'd be your man, would it?
Yeah. He was, I rolled with him when I was a blue belt. I've only rolled with him once. When he was at the summer camp, actually, and he toyed with me. It was like
a kitten.
Like strength, size advantage, as well as skill, speed. Just there was nothing. And at the time, I was like, I'm starting to get comfortable with my blue belt here. I was doing all right. I was rolling with some tough guys, so I was well trained and I was well prepared to roll with people. And he was like you said, it was like he was just kind of talking to somebody else, laughing at my attempts at attacking him or defending, and just tearing me to pieces. So,
a situation like that, if you like imagining it almost as a top trumps game, So Wilson Jr.'s top trumps card would probably be the best pack in, like the best card in the pack, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like
Weights 100, skill level 100,
it's got
technical
like 3 or
ability
4 tens
100,
on there, and you're
special
like,
powers 100. Sam Hall, weight, 15, skill 22, technique 33. Right, what can I do him on? Absolutely
Hair,
nothing.
0.
Nothing.
Hair 90.
So come in, Nick, who's your man? Who's the toughest guy?
I just had to look him up on Instagram. Who it was? Because it's a guy who was one of the instructors, and I did a Globetrotters camp in Copenhagen. Hobson Barbosa.
Right.
And he was a really good. I mean, he's a third or fourth degree black belt, and he was there with another like active black belt competitor. Was another third or fourth degree, Bruno. I can't remember his surname, but I follow them both on Instagram, and they each were teaching different classes, and then he was like they were like sometimes the instructors hang around for the open mats and will roll with people and stuff like because the other guy, the big name there was Alexander Trans, as in like the sort of most notable guy who was teaching. And I didn't roll with him, but I rolled with Hobson and like, oh mate, it's very good.
Just nothing.
Well, you think you know some stuff, don't you?
Yeah.
And like, I think I know some things, and I tried to do a thing, and he's like, okay, I've got like 50 counters to that. Like, and then he moves, and you're like, and then he's almost like move, and you go, oh right, okay, well I haven't seen anyone do that before, so now I'm going to try and move here. And he's like, okay. Like, like just deciding like what he wants to do. Like I've got nothing really, even with I'm bigger than him. Like you said, I was a bigger guy than he was, by quite a way. But no, nothing. There's another guy in Poland the other year. He was a 3-stripe brown belt, a guy from America called Marcus. He's a instructor at John Jack Machado in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
And he works. He's a really nice guy actually. He works in he worked in a gun shop, right, in Texas, and then he taught at lunch. So lunchtime, I was like, so how often do you train? When do you start? And he was like, oh, I started like 3 years ago. And he's a 3-stripe brown belt. I was like, oh wow, okay,
wow,
you must be good. And he's like, well, I train 3 times a day, every day. And I teach. I was like, Jesus Christ, it's making me feel tired just talking to him about what he does training. He trained no-gi, gi. He taught this class. He taught the kids. He trains in the evening. He trained at lunch break from his work. He said, because the gym's just down the road from where I work. So he's making guns during the day. Then he goes training at lunchtime. And
That's a real man.
Working at the gun shop doesn't mean he's making guns.
Well,
he's selling them. He's just giving guns away and getting.
But in my head, he was like, like
boring out the holes.
Boring out the guns, like testing the guns, and then I rolled with him, and he again, like he was much smaller than me, but he just destroyed me to a degree where I'm like, I must be really rubbish at this stuff. Like, sometimes when you walk off, you're like, there's definitely, like you say, levels and levels, and looking at him, you just think, fair enough. And I watched him, funny enough, I was like, because I think, he's really good, and then he rolled with another guy, a guy that was staying in my little bungalow thing called Dan Reed, and he's a Scottish black belt, and he had a gym out in not Thailand but sort of like Asia somewhere that way, and he was like super good. He trained a lot with a lot of no-gi with a lot of really, really good guys, and I was watching them roll no-gi, and that was like seriously technical, like, one of those where you're just like, bloody hell, like, you're like, I'm nowhere near any of this, like, get back in your box, like, I'm just like, I'm here to learn, kind of thing. And,
well, one of the ways I've always liked to sort of quantify jiu-jitsu is, so say me and you, Sam, like we could have 10 rolls and it would be knock for knock, like we'll catch each other, and it's a good sort of a all-round roll. So out of 10 times we'll each catch each other a few times. As you go up to the belts,
I think you're doing yourself a disservice there, and me a massive service.
Being very kind to it.
But being a bit kind to me there. But okay, go on. I get you.
Just as a genuine example, right? So, but then you scale it up and say, I don't know, Luke, roll with Luke. He's going to catch me many, many more times than I might catch him.
Oh man.
So say I would have to roll with Luke 10 times for me to catch him one, or 20 times to catch him once. I left rolling with Eduardo Teta that day thinking we could roll 1,000 times. We could roll 10,000 times. We could roll this simulation 10,000 times.
Yeah.
And even by absolute fluke or accident, there would never be an occasion where I could tap him. Just because my skill set, even at my absolute peak and his absolute lowest, would never even tally up.
Yeah.
And that was another sort of example of jiu-jitsu. I just thought it's the most powerful self-defense.
Well, always what attracted me, you know, like I think to start with, like I've like lots of people saw bits on sort of early UFCs and stuff, and then like messed around doing no-gi grappling and a bit of like sambo stuff with Linton, you know, over at Tenson Bar and that, and then got into jiu-jitsu from there. And what kept me interested, that there's so much to learn, and it is a process and it is a journey. You can't just be the most athletic guy. Yeah, that will help you. Of course it will. All attributes will help you. But that doesn't mean you're going to be the best straight away. You can't pass someone else's experience, knowledge, time on the mat, sparring. Like you say, like training with different people. And I think that like that helps your understanding and your learning, that you had that experience as well. What it didn't do is you go, oh, I don't like this because that guy's, you know,
I'm never going to be as good as that guy.
No, that's amazing, and I want to get better, and I want to learn, and there's so many more things that I can learn, and that I think, you know, opening your eyes up as you go around the whole time. You know, that's for me, that was the thing. Not like if you do, you know, like we've all done boxing, kickboxing, this sort of stuff. It's like, right, okay, technically I can perform that kick. That's great. Like now what? Like,
Well, that's kind of how I got onto jiu-jitsu, because I found I never want to use the word bored, but I kind of grew stale trying to do those sort of martial arts and those disciplines. And like you say, no one can ever get bored in jiu-jitsu, because the minute you even think that you're almost near understanding it, a new trend will come along, like we was talking about trends the other day, or exactly like you were saying the other day of you, Nick. You'll do something that will stuff up my game, so therefore I will have to evolve and adjust and just change ever so slightly things to then catch you back out again.
That's the beauty of it as well, because that all goes in the bank, doesn't it? Like all that stuff, like that like makes you, that gives you a little bit more experience, so that the next time something like that happens, you're kind of already go, I have seen this before. Like whether you know the counter to it or the defense to it or not, you're like, I've seen this, and now I'm starting to piece together the puzzle. Yeah,
I've been here before.
Yeah, I've kind of like, it's funny because I've been doing like it's like 10 years of physically doing jiu-jitsu. Probably, well, minus a year with injury, but like it's only really now that I'm like comfortable enough to feel like I'm actually starting to learn some stuff. Like I know the basics now. I've gathered the basics, and now I can feel like I can start really learning jiu-jitsu. It's a real weird thing, because you see the white belts.
Like those details though, isn't it? You know, like Laurie was talking about, like, you know, like you say, you know, the basics and things. And it puts it into perspective when you're talking about people like this guy, Eduardo and stuff, who like, you know, and people say, okay, so once you get to black belt, you know jiu-jitsu as a whole, and then you start really in depth getting into stuff like really, you know, and that blows my mind anyway. Okay, so you get to know the basic kind of stuff in 10 years or so, you know, wow. And then, you know, but the details that you can take from one technique to another, and, you know, just that, like, cause it's like, Steve and I roll a fair bit. And then, you know, like you say, something, I come along and I think, I've got this, I'm going to try this, and I keep trying it. Okay, something might come off, but then next week or like 2 days later, Steve comes back and he's doing something different. Like it nullifies what I'm doing, and then I'm like, right, now I've got to go away, and it just helps everyone. It helps me, because I go right, I've got to do some more stuff around this. That's not enough. It's not enough, because I think everyone's the same. I certainly think of, it's not good enough that something I do, a technique, works on a white belt or a blue belt. I want it to work on anyone that I'm rolling with if I get in the right position. Yeah. And at least, you know, because I'm not the youngest, you've got to have technique. That's got to be the core. Aren't. Yeah, exactly.
That's something I wanted to talk about, actually. Yeah, go on.
right. Your picture that you put up the other day was like 10 years difference.
Which picture?
Ches put up a picture on his Instagram page. And
Chez's a
been
white
10 years,
Yeah.
10 years since this photo. And the
looks
only thing that's changed is the belt has gone from literally underneath your nipples to a more sensible place around your waist.
I've only done that because I knew it was a photo.
Look exactly the same. I'm like, it looks like you just grown a beard and bought a belt from Amazon the next day and put it on and then just gone.
It's not aged a bit.
No,
yeah, I'm not having that. Not having that at all.
If you look at me back in 2010, mate, I don't even look like the same.
Look at you like 6 months ago.
I'm aging at a massive rate of knots.
Only the otter is aging faster.
Oh, and Sam, you throw a couple of kids into that, mate. That's when you truly age, mate. Yeah, that's when you fall to pieces. That is.
He's going to start shrinking when that happens.
Yeah.
But that was a topic that I left the first part wanting to discuss. Actually, was age versus belt level in jiu-jitsu. It's a bit of a cruel double-edged sword, isn't it? Because where Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it takes so long for you to progress through the belts and to finally reach the fabled level of black belt. I mean, like I say, mine was 9.5 years, which was fairly quick. I mean, your brother done it quicker than that, didn't he?
8 years, yeah.
But I think you can pretty much say it's going to take you about a decade. Give or take, it's going to take you about a decade. So unless you're starting really, really young, by the time you get to black belt, you're probably going to be old. You're probably going to have kids. You're probably going to have pretty serious injuries. So you're quite lucky to make it to black belt and still be competitive, I think.
Yeah,
I think you
are 100%.
Yeah, I think you're right from our. I think you're right from our generation of doing it. But I look
our
now.
Generation, yeah.
I look now and I see because I teach the kids classes, and I think if these kids stick at it, they'll have some of them are like 6, 7, 8 years old. They stick at it, they'll have 10 years experience by the time they're 18. So they may not be a black belt at that age, but they'll have more experience than I will have had at that age. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't start.
Some of these kids are absolutely unbelievable as well.
They're unbelievable, yeah. So it's like...
Well, you've started, Theo started coming to some kids classes, isn't he, Steve?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're seeing firsthand as well, like some of the kids, and they are like, I tell you, if you implanted those skills into some of the, like an adult, you'd be going, man, that guy's close to his blue or his purple belt. Like,
two lads that always sticked with me was Robert and Dan, who went over to train with Ben and Warren, because I've put a little bit of time into them training when I was training at the kids class. You know, I'm talking about Robert and Dan, the two brothers.
Brothers, yeah, the smaller.
Yeah, smaller, quite shy sort of guys. Yeah. I mean, they were good. The last time I see them, they were good level jiu-jitsu practitioners. And I don't know how old they were, but 13, 14?
Yeah, I think they were like 12, 13, 14, something like that.
But they had the foundations of jiu-jitsu, say at 13. So then to sort of grow into a teenager, then into a young adult with that skill and pushing it constantly. Imagine being 18 and a purple belt, but a good purple belt.
Well, if we go back and like the closest we've got in our club that is like that is Harry. Really,
Harry, yeah.
He? You know,
he's now 23 now. Is he?
Yeah.
Well, I trained with him,
belt, isn't he?
I first met him and he was 14. The first time I ever rolled with him, I was 14. And I remember Jack going, roll with the funny Asian kid. He's not Asian, but that's Jack. Roll with the funny Asian kid. He'll mess you up. I remember thinking, well, how old is he? And he's 14. And I remember thinking at the age of 14, just how hard he is.
Yeah.
Like he was legitimately a tough kid at 14.
Yeah. And like now, you know, we're both brown belts, and like when it's almost like you said, if we both rolled like 10 times, I could guarantee 10 times I'd lose.
What about 20 times?
Yeah,
well,
20, maybe 19 times.
Yeah.
you saying, Steve, this like stuck in my head. You like we were rolling, and I think it was kind of like it was a compliment to me in a way, but it just shows like the levels and skills that some people have. Is that you said like, and I was a blue belt, and you were like, you're closer in skill to me, and you were just before you got your black belt, I think, maybe something like that, and than I am to Harry, you know, than you are to Harry. Like Harry's he's drifting so far ahead with his ability and his skill level and his techniques that he almost
he's
without
young as well. He's still young. Like that's what's so cool about it. Like he's gonna, he's a black belt level now, and he's younger than I was when I first started.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair.
Not fair. I think he's one though. He's got some he's wired the right way, his brain, to work things out, and he's got a good physical presence and stuff as well. So he's built for jiu-jitsu. If you were drawing sort of someone to triangle,
well, he's still growing as well. That's the weird thing. Where he has these little weird periods off, and you sort of don't see him for a few months. He sort of turns up again. You go, you're now 6'5".
Yeah. And his shoulders get a bit broader.
Yeah, and he just gets touches like he's just that little bit harder as well.
Like 80 kilos.
Mate, I think you'll find he's a 100-kilo boy now, Harry.
Is he?
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Big old lump. He's a big guy.
He's I'd like to see. I just hope that he keeps going as well, and I'd love to see him get some support to do some comps and stuff and things like that, because I know it's difficult when you're that age and I know you got girlfriend and house and job, and you can be like, if I had his skill level and I look back, I'd think, oh man, I'll travel, I'll go do this, I'd do that, I'd do this.
But maybe that's like you said, he's wired right in the head. Maybe he's like, my priorities are not to chase, potentially a dream. Like it's to get something like sensible down, like get a house and
and I think that's the route he's going, man.
And do you know what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
It's still going to be awesome, isn't he? Yeah. I just think he genuinely, like, if he went and was training in, because I know he's been out to Dubai and stuff, training for a month at Minotaur's gym and things like that. And
I think Harry went out to see Jack as well. I think Harry's been out to Rio.
Has he?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Jack spent a long time out there.
Yeah,
Jack was out there a few times. And he spent quite a while out there.
This wasn't Harry's dad's blue belt under Jack as well?
No, I did ask him that not so long ago. Who gave Jack his blue belt? Who gave Harry's dad his blue belt? I can't remember who he said. I don't think it was Jack.
Right.
I think it might be one of the cater room guys.
Oh, maybe.
I think it might even be Steve up there. I don't know. I have to check
Harry's
that.
dad trained, and he's got his blue belt, Harry's dad, as well.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but back in the day, like he was a blue belt back in the day.
Yeah.
Because I remember talking to him not long ago, going, because I just assumed he would have got it from Jack as well. And he's like, no, it's back in the day. That's how he got into training.
Yeah,
because his dad's trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and as the weird little world happened, it just so happened that Jack McGee had a full-time academy in a unit in the 60 people population town where he lived at the time.
Yeah, I'll pop along there, shall I?
Yeah, I'll just go and train with one of the best BJJ guys in the UK currently, who happens to be living in New Romney.
Yeah,
that's handy.
Yeah.
It's fun. Well, this is it. We were saying the other day as well, like just the amount of quality, guys like, so Luke, Danny, and Harry coming over is like a massive asset for the club.
Well, we talked about this. I don't know whether we talked about it on the podcast, but I think we might have done, how much it elevated everyone's training.
It put new steam in the sails, didn't it? New wind in the sails.
Yeah,
because they turned up, and at a time we was all pretty much the same sort of thing. All same sort of levels, but they just seemed to push it that little bit harder, and they definitely sped the whole club up. It was great to have them guys turn up.
Yeah, it was. It is great to have them train consistently, week in, week out at the club.
Well, nowadays, I mean, they're Asher boys, aren't they? They always have that heritage of Jack, but they're pretty much Asher boys now, aren't they?
I think they probably train longer with us now than.
What grade? They were blue belts when they came over, were they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. There's to those guys, but then Sammy Sausage as well. Like, you roll no gi with that dude, he's gonna mess you up. Like, there's really good guy, and he you see pictures of him when he was a white belt as well. He's like a kid.
Yeah, yeah. He's only young as well, isn't he, Sam?
He's like, is he 26? Maybe he might be 27.
Yeah, that's
26
cool.
though. But he's like he's another one that's like he's got a lot of skill and he just seems to like absorb knowledge.
Yeah, he does.
And you don't really realise, but he gets better all the time.
Yeah.
You know, he's one of those. And
Yeah.
if you're training anything with leg locks in, like the guy is a savage.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And
I think the last time he rolled, he caught me with a leg lock.
He's super strong as well.
Yeah.
And like, sometimes he says stuff like, he's like, oh yeah, well I've only ever caught Ian with foot locks and things, so I feel like it's cheating. I'm like, what? Like,
I haven't caught you, Ian, in years. It's not fair.
you know, because that's what like Sammy's like leg lock game and stuff is just, you know, really, really good. And you get to train, if you want to train stuff like that, you can say to him, oh, hey, can we do some of this? And these guys, he could go and teach people that stuff. Like I said to him, well, you should teach a class doing this and that. He's like, oh, yeah. But kind of people like under the radar to it slightly, but he's so good.
Yeah, he's really good.
You know? And I think we're spoiled. I refuse to believe that all gyms are like that. Like, I just don't think that standard is every single gym you go in. Because I've trained at a few different gyms, and I can say it's not like that. You know,
Cool.
it isn't like that. And sometimes you roll with people and you think like, well, I'm not sure that you are a brown belt. You know what I mean? Like,
Is that you talking about me?
no, mate, not you. You're legit. But there are people that are not. I know that. I mean, that would be a thing, Steve, to ask you. Like, did you ever think, you know, like when you were training out in Brazil and stuff, did you ever come across people that were traveling, doing this and that you thought like, well, the standards were different? You think
absolutely.
Found out and...
Yeah, there was a couple of people over in Rio that there was a couple of other guys. Again, people might end up hearing this, but there was a couple of brown belts at the time that I was slaughtering.
Really?
Yeah.
A relatively new, under a year old blue belt.
I was an average blue belt. Fairly heavy, fairly tough, but in terms of jiu-jitsu capabilities, average, mate. And I remember thinking, I'm not gloating on the fact that I've tapped out you and you being a brown belt. I'm more actually thinking that you should be a bit concerned that you've been slaughtered by an average blue belt and you should be questioning whether or not you are truly a brown belt, sort of thing. Because I remember at the time thinking, bloody hell, I've just tapped out a brown belt. And I like coming back from the UK, Andre was a brown belt, you know, and I remember Andre just laying the smack on me.
No chance.
And then forward it a couple of weeks, and I've been in Rio a couple of times. I've rolled with a couple of European brown belts. I'm like, not the same.
Yeah.
Not the same. Yeah. And like badly as well. I remember tapping him from just almost sort of crushing him at one point, and he tapped from side pressure. I remember thinking,
pushing the life.
Yeah.
Where have you been training, mate?
He was heavier than me as well. Like I say, so it wasn't like I was just manhandling some little 50-kilo kid. He was a big 100-kilo odd man.
Yeah, crazy.
But yeah, there are levels and there are levels. Now I think we're very fortunate that amongst us walk some real true savages.
Jim, another one, Jim Lane.
Oh God, yeah.
Like you can't sleep on him because he'll get you. And he'll torture you because Jim won't just tap you out sort of conventionally. He will absolutely terrorise you.
Here we go.
Hello, darling.
We got the man.
Hello, mate.
There's the man.
Sorry, can we have your phone, please?
Of course you can.
I'm very sorry, but mine's run out. Hi, sorry.
Hello.
Bye.
Thank you.
There you go.
Let's go, Theo.
Hiya.
Theo, now go.
Walk-ins.
Jim, like, you feel like you've been in an actual fight.
No, you feel like you've been in a car crash with him because you end up with horrible cut marks under your arm. Like lacerate you with your own gi.
Pressing his knee into my face, sort of thing, and I'm like, hang on, oh no, he's doing it on purpose.
I use it all the time now, but someone once said to me, it's like, when you roll with Jim and he's a policeman, it's like he's arresting you. I think that is about as close as you can get. You feel like you're being...
But you need people like that.
Yeah.
I've always said I'm a firm believer in to be good at jiu-jitsu and to get better at jiu-jitsu. You have to have people that you beat up, and then you have to have people that beat you up.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's no good you being the best person in the club. Because it's
Don't
not
get
good
any
for your
better that
jiu-jitsu.
way.
No,
Yeah.
no. If
That's-
you're going through a period of a couple of weeks where you're not getting tapped out, then you need to go further afield, because that's not good for your mental state, and it's certainly not good for your jiu-jitsu.
The same. It's the same when like so like we're talking about like gym, like it's a hard role and it feels like you're in a fight. Like you need those guys. Like you need those guys to push you a little bit, because
Yeah.
it's always stuck in my mind. Like I've never worried about who I've had to spar with. Like if it whatever happens. Like but like when I'm teaching the white belts in the class, like sometimes I pick them and like I try and match them up some like as best I can, like weight wise, so that you know someone's not getting crushed, because at white belt it can be very, do you know what I mean? Like very like aggressive roles, and like you know you try and mitigate the injuries as much as possible. But every now and again, I'll pick a guy, like a big guy with a younger like lad, and like the younger lad's like looking at me like, oh no, I don't think I'm gonna spar. Like, and I'm like, just you have to like imagine like you'll be all right. Like you'll get through it, and imagine like the confidence boost. You know, you survive. Maybe you do something. Maybe you don't get tapped out. Maybe you don't get crashed. Maybe you end up beating up that guy.
Yeah.
And imagine the confidence boost that gives you. Like you've just got to experience it. And I think like just get you just got to experience it and try, and even just the trying and thinking, you know, because I remember what it was like at white belt and like rolling with you monsters, and like I'd walk out there thinking, do you know what? Like my confidence levels went from like rock bottom to like here, because I felt like you don't get that experience of getting
I've survived
getting roughed up and surviving all the time.
Or even one step further, say you get smashed up and you get sub 5 times. So next time you roll with that person, you just think, right, he got me 5 times. I just need to try and make it that little bit harder. Try and just survive. Try and be that little bit more technical, and hopefully survive for 4 submissions and then 3 submissions.
That was exactly my policy. That was 100%. Because like back on the sort of Tuesdays, Thursday nights, I remember the Tuesday nights when I got my blue belt, and you were there. So I roll with you, Danny, Luke, Sausage, Laura, like everyone, and Peter, and I was absolutely like almost feeling like I was like crushed to nothingness, and then like built back up by getting a belt. And I was like, man, you know, and you almost think you're doing so terribly, but in reality, like every time it's picking up like the small victories again, and like, okay, I can get subbed that round. Like that's the best I've ever done, you know.
You're gaining that experience, aren't you? Like when you draw, like because I think like some of the white belts, they think that it's like, or when you just start, when you roll with a higher belt, you think it's magic that they're doing. Like, how has he predicted what I'm going to do before I've even done it? But the experience of having people do that same kind of
they're leading me down a path, so I've only got one option, and then he gets me.
Yeah, or you pick up patterns that people do certain things in certain.
They like doing stuff.
It doesn't deviate that much, so you kind of already know kind of what they're going to do, like with variations here and there.
Jiu-jitsu for me is pattern repetition.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's, and you know that's what the magic, I guess, or the invisible jiu-jitsu is just like seeing that repeated pattern, and you know.
I can't remember who said eliminating, like the more you know, the less you use.
Yeah.
Like you know, you know a lot, and you can set yourself up, whatever the other person thinks, to do 4 or 5 different things depending on what they do, and then you end up going into the sort of simpler techniques because applied correctly, they work on any level.
Yeah,
there is something a little bit demoralising though, and I'm aware that I've actually now done it to a few people, where in the old days you'd be rolling with someone that was smashing you up, and that gap would be closing. Like I say, you might get sub 4 times, 3 times, 2 times, then it might be a draw, and then one day you'd be like, I'm going to get him, and then you realise they're just going to put it into second gear and absolutely destroy you. You go straight back to 5 submissions. You're like, so that guy was ticking over and smashing me.
He was having a
happened
rest.
is I've just revved him up to first gear, and now it's straight back to Smashville. Yeah. And that's quite demoralising in jiu-jitsu. But at the same time, quite funny because I'm aware now that there's been a few times I've been like, oh, he's getting close. Like, you're going to have to get second gear now, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But you know it. You can look him in the eyes and go, Yeah, that's second gear, mofo.
I love doing that to Mark. In fact, I
Don't
like
get out.
commentating.
Yeah, usually in neutral.
I like telling him what he's going to do before he does it. That's my favourite thing to do.
Not now, darling. Not now. I'll come see you in a minute. Yeah, I'm just talking to some people. I love you. I love you. Bye-bye now.
I think we've probably got to wrap this up now anyway. I think you've got another thing to do, haven't you?
Well, we'll probably have to have round 3 with chairs, I reckon.
100%.
Well, because, mate, I've still got topics that we've still not even touched on.
Oh, well, we'll definitely do a round 3 then.
100%. 100%. It's awesome again, as always. Thanks to you. Interesting, man. And this is like, I think it's really good for everyone. Like, because I was saying to Sam, not everyone gets to know each other that well. So it's a great way of getting to know people.
I'm coming, Alex. I'm coming, darling. I'm coming. 2 minutes. Yeah. You should have seen the death stare I got off my wife the other night.
Is that why she was behind the door? Like,
yeah. Yeah. The other night when it started to get quite late and Thea was unsettled, I got the... Yeah. So I knew it was time to go.
Yeah.
Well, we will let you go and then welcome you back another day.
I look forward to it, and I can't wait to see you again soon. So come say goodbye. Come look, you're creeping in here. Ugh. So have a lovely Friday.
Bye,
see you soon.
Enjoy it. Bye. See you, Theo.
Hang on. Oh, hang on. So see you later, guys.
Bye, Theo.
Bye.
Cool. Have a good weekend, guys. See you soon.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Push.
Yes.